Hello! Today I'm going to be explaining to you the lesson that I wrote on the Fantastic Elastic Brain, which is based on this book by Dr. Joanne Deek. This book is an informational text that describes on about a second or third grade level, depending on some of the terminology and things. It describes different parts of the brain, the different jobs that the brain has, just like interesting things like telling the students that the brain controls everything you do, everything you think, everything you feel, even everything you dream, things that kids may not think of. It's just a cool little book. It has a good amount of pictures, but it also has some really good content-based vocabulary terms that relate right back to biology and anatomy, such as the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that helps you with your memory and helping you learn to play the piano, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, neurons, the hypothalamus, the hippocampus. There's all kinds, prefrontal cortex, all kinds of vocabulary just filled within this book, which is perfect. So to teach this much of these big vocabulary terms to students of such a young age, I decided to, and also just the content of learning about the brain and different parts of the brain, I decided to use a KWL chart. This type of chart is perfect for young learners, which is what I would be in early childhood, because they can write in the K chart, the K column, they can write what they know. So I can say, okay, boys and girls, what do you know about a brain? They're like, well, a brain is in my head. And you will get answers as simple as that from little kids. And then I could also say, all right, what else? Tell me what else do you know about the brain. The brain is, I don't know what they might say, but let's just say the brain is very smart. Or the bigger the brain, the smarter the kid. Kids seem to think that a lot. They compare head sizes, and I've seen it on the playground all the time. So, bigger brain, smarter kid. So I would just have the students fill this out, the K chart. Then W is what they want to learn. This whole tool is encouraging the students to think forward into the lesson. This hooks them into the lesson, and this also is going to be used as a general form of assessment at the end. Perfect tool, as I mentioned again. I'll say it again because I like it so much. The W column is what they want to know. So maybe the students are wanting to know, okay, I've heard about like maybe right and left sides of the brain, but I don't know if that's true or not. So maybe they would ask a question like, does the brain have parts? Or you might get a question like, what color is the brain? All of these. And if I was using this in an early childhood classroom, I would either create this KWL chart on the chalkboard, on an anchor chart, or even with give each student a worksheet and just have them fill it out individually, depending on what I want to use it to assess at the end of the lesson. Okay, so then this is a relatively short lesson, but I would just read this book to my students, as I flip through to you guys. Just read it through, ask them, pause to ask questions, especially on pages like this where it says, what is the cerebrum, what is the cerebellum, and they're learning about that. That's some tricky stuff, words they've never heard before, words they're not going to know how to spell. I'm going to take time, go over this vocabulary, write these words on the board, and define them as a class so that we can kind of build our vocabulary throughout the lesson. Then I'm going to continue on and through all the different vocabulary, and then at the end of this book it talks about how these things are used. For example, when I play soccer and I make a mistake, I'm using this part of my brain, and then through this learning about this part of my brain, I learned that the more mistakes I make, the more I learn. So I can use that as a talking point to my students about how that making mistakes is beneficial, that it's okay to make mistakes. All of this can be tied in together. And then, as a fun way to kind of wrap up the lesson, other than the KWL chart, I decided to make a Kahoot, which some of you may be familiar with. And I'm just going to go through this Kahoot with you all so that you can kind of get a general idea what it is. So, right here on my tablet, I have this connected to the computer. You can hear the music playing. Each of these squares represents a multiple choice answer from my quiz. So this quiz says, what is the brain categorized? Muscle, tendon, organ, or tissue? The brain is categorized as an organ, and this correlates to the answer. So I click on that. I see that I got the answer correct. This keeps score. Each child has their own name. Right here on the screen, they enter their name, and then all of that data is collected onto the Kahoot for the teacher to see, which is perfect for just a general formative assessment. This quiz is 15 questions, and the kids love these types of quizzes because you have to try to race to beat the next person beside you to see who got the answer right and who got the answer wrong, and then it also corrects them. So, for example, on the next question, it counts down, question 2, and the question says, how many parts does the brain have? So I'm just going to answer this, and I see it tells me that I'm incorrect, and it tells me what the correct answer is, so that not only does it keep data for the children, but it also is a self-correcting tool not only does it keep data for the teacher, but it's a self-correcting tool for the children. So they get to see right then what their answer is. They get to see where they're ranking in terms of their peers as well, which can be beneficial. And then at the end of the lesson, after we'd finished the Kahoot, and I felt that the students were mastering the content that I wanted to teach through this book, the science content, I would bring back the KWL chart and ask the students what they've learned. I would tie in the questions from the Kahoot because that's exactly what I was wanting to assess. Within the questions, as you'll see in the forum that I'm going to post, the Kahoot asks general questions, and it also asks questions that I can kind of get a better picture of what they're actually thinking. Just to see, it's not just straight, they can just memorize it. It's about their thinking and their processing throughout the reading. Okay, so as I finished the test, I would probably do this in a group no matter what, and no matter if I used a chalkboard, anchor chart, or a worksheet. But the L would stand for what I learned in the lesson, as I mentioned. So, for example, we learned that the brain has 2 sides, 2 hemispheres. So I could write 2 hemispheres. And the students can keep track of this, and then they have this chart in their folders for whatever further references I want to be using. I really hope that you guys saw that this lesson has a lot of benefits. Not only is it connecting reading and writing, but reading through the book, writing through the KWL chart. It's teaching the students summarizing skills. It's teaching them just general content related to the human brain and just some scientific things that, especially for second graders, this would be a really good way to hook students into interesting science because you're still trying to pull their interests. I can get them interested in science, learning about the brain. What a cool thing to learn about when you're in elementary school. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you get a chance to look over my lesson plan and use it in your future classrooms. So thank you.